Good evening. The Madison County regular session board meeting for 12/14/2023 is called into order. Mr. Curry, we do the invocation, please, sir?
Absolutely. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we're thankful. We're thankful for the opportunity to serve this Christmas season. We ask that you bless this board to make wise decisions. We ask you bless our families, our community, and our schools. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Read this now. I have a letter from our superintendent, Mr. Ken Kubik. It says, due to a planned surgical procedure that will prevent me from conducting the December 14th, 2023 board meeting, I give Daniel Evans, Jr., Chief of Staff, the full authority to convene, facilitate, and make decisions in my absence at the December 14th, 2023 board meeting. Sincerely, Ken Kubik. And with that, Mr. Evans?
So the recommendations made tonight will be Mr. Kubik's recommendations. I recommend approval of the agenda dated December 14th, 2023.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval of the minutes dated November 16th, 2023 as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Mr. President, tonight we have Mount Carmel Elementary School representatives here with us, and so we want to congratulate them on being recognized as a National Blue Ribbon Award-winning school, and we have a resolution for Ms. Bates to read for them.
Y'all want to stand up? Come on, stand up.
Wow.
Come up here while we're reading
Come on
it.
up.
That way, on the video, while we're reading it, they can see you guys while it's streaming. Yeah. All right, whereas Mount Carmel Elementary School was named as a 2023 National Blue Ribbon School from the U.S. Department of Education Secretary Miguel Cardona, and whereas 353 public schools were selected nationwide out of more than 133,000 public schools in the nation for the 2023 Blue Ribbon Schools Award, which is one of the most prestigious education awards in the country. And whereas since 1982, approximately 10,000 of America's schools have received this coveted award that honors those that reflect the goals of high standards and accountability. And whereas the Blue Ribbon Schools program honors public and private elementary, middle, and high schools that demonstrate overall academic excellence and show success in closing achievement gaps. And whereas Mount Carmel Elementary School was honored at the November 16th through 17th, 2023 conference and awards ceremony for the Blue Ribbon Schools, and whereas it is a reflection of the hard work and dedication of students, faculty, and administration of Mount Carmel Elementary Schools, and whereas the Madison County Board of Education wishes to recognize the achievements of the students, teachers, and administration of Mount Carmel Elementary School. Now therefore be it resolved that the superintendent and the Madison County Board of Education congratulate the students, teachers, and administrators and acknowledge their achievements and express due acclamation for their outstanding accomplishments. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to Principal Dr. Julie Norden, and that the words be set in perpetuity upon the minutes of the Madison County Board of Education. Dated this day, December 14th, 2023.
Congratulations.
Do we want to?
So I recommend approval of the resolution for Mount Carmel Elementary being named a 2023 National Blue Ribbon School.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Congratulations. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And we would like to thank the board for the Washington DC Society for that very kind
6 of them. Y'all get to see all 6 of them.
At this time, do any board members have district highlights they'd like to share from around our districts?
I got a couple. First of all, we started middle school basketball. Monrovia is starting to play. All the preseason workups have been done. Our elementary schools are having various charitable donations. For example, Endeavor is doing a 10-day ACE donation drive for the Downtown Rescue Mission. The Endeavor Drama Club is hosting the One and Only Santa Claus, and they're doing a sing-along at the gym. And Endeavor's PTO is sponsoring a holiday elf shop where people can purchase things and then go to worthy causes. And then finally, the new pre-K playground equipment upgrades have arrived in Endeavor, and they're in the process of installing them. The other schools are doing various holidays activities, but to be honest with you, I think I say to you that both teachers, students, and parents look forward to starting Christmas break.
Thank you, Mr. President. Real quick, I want to take this opportunity to wish all the students and the staff members across the district Merry Christmas. I know all of you are very excited for a half-day tomorrow and it starts your Christmas break. We look forward to welcoming you back on Wednesday, January 3rd. On Saturday, December 9th, I had the privilege of participating in the annual Shop with a Hero event sponsored by Flint River Baptist Church at the Walmart location in Hazel Green. Through the support of Walmart and our community partners, this incredible event delivered Christmas wishes to more than 600 students in Madison County. A special thanks to Flint River Baptist Church, to Walmart, and all of the event sponsors and volunteers who made this day special for so many children across our district. The Open Gate weapon detection systems, on December 7th, Mr. Byrd and I met with the Sparkman High School admin staff and observed the operational procedures of our new Open Gate weapon detection systems. I was extremely impressed with the system, with the system's capability, and proud to offer this additional layer of security to the students and staff members of Madison County. Just a few recognitions. First, with Sparkman High School, congratulations to Coach Longino and the Sparkman High School varsity co-ed cheer team. They are the 2023 state champions, and well done and the best of luck at regionals. Congratulations also to the Sparkman High School esports team on winning the Apex and Valorant championships. Moving to Madison Crossroads Elementary School on December 1st, Madison Crossroads was recognized for a third time as a Lighthouse School at the Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence National Conference. And that, Mr. President, concludes my highlights for District 4.
I had the privilege of attending the Alabama Association of School Boards Winter Convention. A lot of good information, and also the Delegate Assembly. It was Governor Ivey attended. She spoke about the continued investment in early childhood education across the state, which was really refreshing. It would be, I don't know what the process would be, but it would be, I think, beneficial to the state to make pre-K or at least kindergarten mandatory for all students in Alabama. That would be something that I think she wants to eventually get to, and she spoke to some of that as well, and the continued investment. We had several board members went to the Open Gate demo at Hazel Green High School about 3 weeks ago, and we actually watched the students come through the process. It was a very seamless process, very smooth, actually more smooth than I expected. So the kids seemed to really just naturally understand how the process worked, didn't seem to have many issues. And the issues that they had, they knew kind of in advance. So the kids were prepared to handle those issues that they faced with the open gate system. So very good. Our staff handled it well. They have multiple people managing the system, so it was really good to see it in action. And those are my comments.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that a little bit, the weapons gate on both of y'all's. I think it's a great thing, and I appreciate everybody that was heavily involved in it. It's starting to become the new norm. I mean, you know, they did have some hiccups the first day, but now it's kind of seamless and pretty smooth, so I appreciate those. I want to give a shout out to Madison County High School cheerleaders that placed 7th in the state, and New Hope cheerleaders placed 9th in the state. And another thing I've been noticing, I don't know if somebody else might have noticed this around their district, but the school zones, has anybody been seeing the double fines? They're putting up double fines signs in the school zones now. So maybe that's another little layer of safety.
Right.
So I've seen them around Gurley and Central and everything, so
Cool.
any kind of safety we can get for the schools and students, I'm all for, so. Other than that, I'm Mr. Superintendent. Informational items?
Yeah, so for informational items, we have Matt Rogers coming to update the board on athletics and then about the textbook committee.
All right, so like Mr. Evans said, I'll be talking about athletics and throwing a little bit of textbooks in there as well. Most of these items that I'm bringing to y'all's attention tonight, this is mainly looking forward to kind of the 24-25 school year and some changes that might need to be made. First thing I'd like to talk about is tickets. I'm going to start right here, okay? Started looking at ticket comparisons with local school systems. I had some coaches that came to me early in the school year and said, hey, officials went up across the board. All of our officials' fees have gone up substantially, 25% in some cases, and we'd like to see a ticket price added, an additional dollar be added to ticket prices. And just based off of that alone, when I looked at the numbers and everything, I didn't really see a need for it. I looked, and we were basically on par with almost everyone else around us. We might be $1 short here or there compared to some of the other school systems. But, again, we were, about on par with everyone else. Now, recently we were informed by the Madison County Sheriff's Department that their cost per hour is going to increase from $35 an hour to $50 an hour. And this affects athletics, where we use those deputies to come in. And again, a $35 to a $50 an hour increase is substantial. So what we've basically had is an increase in not only officials, but also in the cost of our deputies in the last year. Again, with officials, between a 10 and 25% increase in their costs. I didn't really see a need to change our ticket prices at the time. But again, with the increase in officials' fees, and now we're going to an increase in deputies' fees, I think that this might be something warranted. I picked varsity basketball because that's the season we're kind of in right now, just to kind of give you an idea of how we've seen increases in the cost of just putting on an event for our athletic program. So, in 22-23 last season, a basketball official was $80, okay? This year, it's increased to $95, okay? So again, quite an increase there. It's an $80 base fee and then a $15 travel expense, okay? Again, we're at $35 an hour for deputies. When I talk to most of our larger schools, our smaller schools, they might have between 1 and 2 deputies, but Hazel Green, Sparkman, and Buckhorn, they're between 2 and 4 deputies. Sparkman might get up to 5 or 6 even if they have James Clemens, Bob Jones, Huntsville High, one of those larger schools visiting. But again, 4 is about on average. You're talking about 4 deputies at 4 hours, $35 a piece. Just with the increase in officials' fees, you're talking about going up $90. Again, and talking to some coaches, I gotta sell 13 extra tickets or eat it, on those 13 tickets to kind of make up for that. Not a big deal, okay? We go to next year, and even if the officials' fees stay the same in basketball, we're talking about a $240 increase between this year and next year with our deputies, okay? In that scenario, okay? You're talking about an expense of $560 for 4 deputies at a basketball game to $800. And that's pretty substantial. Again, now instead of selling 13 tickets to make up for the officials' fees increasing, I need to sell 35 tickets to make up for it, So again, quite an increase there. And again, officials have gone up every year for the last 3 years. We don't know what's going to happen. The HSA will vote on that this summer, and we won't know until then. But again, this is just if the fees stay exactly the same. And again, this is just for basketball. It's this way kind of across the board, okay? Baseball, right now an umpire costs you, per umpire, you're going to have 3 for a varsity game. It's going to be $105 per, okay? So you're talking about $315 to play a varsity baseball game, okay, just for officials. So again, it's kind of starting to eat into the bottom line for some of our programs. I don't necessarily like the idea of increasing our prices, but again, we're on par, or we're a little bit behind, most of the time about $1 short of everybody else, of some of our local schools. Again, you see Huntsville City's at 11 and 6 for football. Madison City's at 10 and 5. We're about the same with them. Madison City's $1 higher on the middle school student ticket. Huntsville City's $2 higher on the general admission ticket. And I've actually had parents call me and say, hey, when I go to Madison City or I go to Huntsville City, why does it cost X? And then I come here and it costs Y. And I say, well, it's decided by the district. It's a district by district cost. And they said, so we're giving up $2 to go see them. And when they come to us, we're basically giving them a break. Yeah, I mean, I guess if that's how you want to think about it. So again, we're around the same price, but again, I'd like to see us, again, to make up for the increase in costs just to put on an event. I'd like to see an increase. Again, this would be for the 24-25. I sat down with Ms. O'Bannon, and we kind of looked through the numbers and talked about what we would do. Football, I'm looking at probably, I think, staying the same, but increasing the general admission for all other varsity sports from 7 to 8. We'd leave the student ticket price at the same amount. Tournaments, we'd leave the same. And then we'd increase by $1 for the general admission for middle schools as well, from 6 to 7 there, again, leaving the students the same. Again, this is just kind of a proposal, what we're kind of thinking, to try to offset some of that increase in cost. Any questions on that? Again, I know this is something we're kind of looking to in the future, but again, just thoughts on that? Any thoughts, questions?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to clarify first with Ms. O'Bannon, the state does not fund athletics at all. Is that correct? And I think that when we put out a memo that we're increasing ticket prices, that needs to be made clear to our stakeholders. I think they all aren't always aware that, unfortunately, it is all on the parents and the stakeholders in order to support athletics in Alabama state school system of any sort. And because if you look at this, I know $12 doesn't sound like a lot, but that for 2 people in basketball for 3 games a week, that's $75 a week. Mm-hmm. That's that's a chunk of change to see your kid play.
Right.
And I get it. I mean, very much so. But I think we just need to be very clear that we're not doing this because we aren't funding sports or aren't using the money that we're given by the state to fund sports. I think we need to be very clear with parents and stakeholders that we are not funded at all for this. If you want your child to play, it is a completely stakeholder-funded event.
Right. Yep, and I have a lot of questions like that of, hey, why am I paying this fee? Why are tickets so expensive? Can parents get a free pass? It's just like, well, if we do that, then we can't fund our athletic programs. And I mean, that's what it boils down to. And also understanding that like the HSA sets these officials and umpire fees. Like there's nothing we can do about it. Whatever they decide it is, that's what we're going to pay. Now they're kind of like we do with our tournaments where they say officials cost up to this amount. We're not getting any breaks from any of these official associations. Whatever the AHSA says they can charge, that's what they're charging us, okay? So again, that's something that's completely out of our hands, to a certain extent, how much it costs for deputies, something that's completely out of our hands. But again, these are still expenses that are going back on our programs, and it's had some negative effects.
Yeah, I just think parents need to know we're not trying to make money. We're just
Right.
trying to provide what is necessary in order to have this event for their student or for them.
Would it be safe? Would it be safe to say, Mr. Rogers, that every game they're covering their costs associated or with ticket sales, or we have?
So it's this way at like the collegiate level and then high school too. Like basketball and football are usually okay. Those are highly attended, sporting events. They're usually okay. Again, basketball I think takes a little bit more a hit than football. That's why I'm not suggesting really an increase on football. Everybody else is going in the hole. Like, basically parents are funding everything else. I mean, just for a varsity baseball game, $315.
Right.
A good gate at a baseball game, $500. And then if you play JV in a freshman game on top of that, you're not even for, soccer, volleyball, baseball, softball. If I can cover the officials with my gate, I'm doing pretty good. You know what
Gotcha.
I mean? So that's kind of where we're at. And like I said, I don't like the idea of increasing the ticket prices, because again, that's just one more expense back on the parents. I understand that, but at the same time, these fees continue to go up, things that are completely out of our hands, and we got to find a way to kind of.
Now, is Huntsville City and Madison City discussing raising their prices too? Because
So Huntsville City is not, as you can see, they're a little bit higher than us in most areas. And talking to some of the Madison City, they've said the same thing, that they're experiencing the same problems. Again, not so much with football, not nearly as bad in basketball, but in those smaller sports that don't get quite the crowds, volleyball, soccer, baseball, softball, they're looking at increasing. And I think where they had discussed increasing and had been talking about increasing is at the student level rather than at the adult level. So yeah, it's in discussion. And again, Huntsville City just increased theirs this year. I don't foresee them doing it again.
Which one were you looking at going up on?
So I would go up $1 on all other varsity sports, so $8 from $7. Students would stay the same. At middle school, for some reason, we broke them down by sport, but they were the same. It was 6 and 3 for middle school. It would become 7 and 3. So basically $1 on the adult prices for all varsity sports other than football, and $1 for all middle school sports. Any other questions on that? Comments? Again, just looking forward to 24, 25 and our expected increases in cost, okay? Next thing I want to cover a little bit right here is the National High School Cheerleading Championship. We were mentioning earlier, we have our cheer squads. They just competed this week in the state championships. We had some teams that competed very well, ranked very highly, and I'll get into that more in just a second. So we've run into an issue here. UCA, who's kind of the governing body over the National Cheer Association, they've extended or added a 4th day to the NHSCC Championship weekend for 2024. So in the past, Friday was a practice day, and you would practice Friday, compete Saturday, Sunday, Monday, right? Now they have moved it back, and we've got a competition day on Friday, okay? So it's a practice day Thursday, competition Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and if you're lucky, into Monday if you're in the championship. So they've extended it by a day. What I'm basically requesting for this year, for our teams that have qualified, I'm requesting that we make an exception to our board policy, which states they're limited to 3 days. And talking to some of the cheer coaches, again, with that practice date on Thursday, competition Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and again, if they're in the championships on a Monday, they basically would need to miss all of Thursday, all of Friday, Monday, and travel back Tuesday. Okay, so it turns into 4 days because of the way that this competition has been kind of changed, okay? And I've attached the schedule there. I'll be happy to share it with you. And again, comparing it to last year's schedule, it's exactly like what they kind of discussed, okay? I think Sparkman, I was talking with Sparkman High in Orlando, their practice slot is like 9:30 Thursday morning, okay? Leaving Wednesday night to try to get down there Thursday becomes kind of difficult, but I think it's what they're planning on doing. Again, this kind of throws a wrench in our plan. looking at kind of how we finished this week, Buckhorn High, very well. Varsity traditional champions, varsity game day champions, JV traditional champions, and JV game day runner-up. Spartan only had the co-ed champions in varsity. They placed 10th in varsity game day, and they were champions in JV co-ed. Our other schools that were in the state tournament or in the state championships, Madison County High finished 7th out of 28. New Hope finished 9th out of 28. And Monrovia finished 6th out of 7th. Now, one thing I do want to point out about that 7th and 9th place finish for Madison County and New Hope, there's 2.3% between the number one and them. So there's a very slim margin. I was telling Mr. Brooks earlier, Madison County, they had an issue with their soundtrack, and they were deducted 2 points. They actually scored higher on their raw total than the runner-up, and just that mishap with their music deducted them all the way down to 7th place. So again, that kind of shows how much of a slim margin there is in some of these cheer competitions and that type of thing, okay? So again, our current policy states that cheerleading squads participating in a national competition will be excused a maximum of 3 days, full days of school. Again, with the current setup and them changing the format of the competition, this kind of creates an issue, okay?
Do you see this timeline for cheering as being constant here in the future? Is it
Yes.
just a one-year blip?
It's going to be constant in the future. The national competition's gone to a 4th day, and they're not going to, go back to 3. They've kind of expanded it and allowed more smaller schools and that type of thing into their competition, from my understanding, and that's just created extra days. It also means a little bit more, time in Orlando and money made for this organization. But, they have added that 4th day to accommodate all the teams that they are now hosting. So this will be something that I think in the future it just continues. And I mentioned on there, again, in the future, I'd like to see all programs held to the same policy for loss of school time. And we talked about this early on, I think when I first came into this position, that, there's some of our, and I'd like to explore this. Again, changing policy now, I don't think it's necessary. I'd just like to ask that for this year, for this specific competition, they be granted that 4th day to accommodate the change. And then look at possibly changing some of the athletic policies down the road.
Is there a motion to do this?
No, this is just informational for now. We wouldn't change the policy until
Mr. Rogers,
next year.
From a procedural standpoint, the board typically doesn't grant exceptions. It would
Okay.
be better if we could clean up the policy. If we could clean the policy up, and work towards language.
Okay.
That would, if you anticipate, I think that's why Mr. Bird asked the question he did.
Right.
You anticipate this continuing in the future
Right.
versus.
So like I said,
We could make an exception, but it procedurally would be better if we could address it.
and we can iron that out, I think. Like I said, we've got certain policies in athletics that we're not following and that we haven't followed.
Yes.
I've been in the system for 10 years. I played sports in the system, for 10 years prior to that. There's a lot of policies that are there that we don't necessarily follow.
Mr. Rogers, when does this competition occur?
February 4th? Let's see.
We have 2 board meetings
Yep.
to modify this policy.
Correct.
But they have to make travel plans as well.
I don't know anybody else's opinion, but I'm certainly willing to
Yeah.
bend over.
So-
to-
Yeah,
to-
I think the board wouldn't want to hold the cheer teams away from the competition. So I know we're going to accept or adopt
Right.
whatever we come up with.
So that's kind of the issue, the die's been cast. Like, travel plans have
Right.
been made. As soon as they knew that they'd gone to the state or to the national tournament, the national championships, they started making travel.
I will say though, it comes to a point that if they continue to extend it, we have
Right.
to have a limit. We
Yeah.
can't just indefinitely, like if they decide in 5 years, 5 days, we have to have a standard, so you could simply change it to 4 and it'd satisfy, but maybe we take away the number of days and somehow structure
so-
it a little different.
Yeah.
How about another way to work this is that we could leave the dates, the 3 from the policy change, but have a notification the approval of superintendent and notification of the board for anything that exceeds 3.
And so kind of what
Then
I
we have
was.
to vote every time it exceeds 3, and that then doesn't allow for parameters to
Yeah.
govern that. Then you end up with just what you decide each time, and it's no longer a policy then, it's just kind of a suggestion that we decide every time. And it puts it on our shoulders to decide every time which ones can and which ones can't, as
And I-
these get bigger.
And I can't see a situation where we would deny it.
So then
But
we have
why have it where you have to vote every time? You know,
I didn't
why-
say vote, I said notify.
or
If
notify.
they notify, well, then why have the policy if all you have to do is tell us?
No? Okay.
This is kind of just, and Bill, you probably do this in your head, I can't. I'm just assuming that with attendance being part of our report card, that having this many students missing for an extra day could actually drop a school in their level of attendance. Like, if you're at 99 and you have, I mean, I'm assuming this is somewhere around 40 kids
But
gone for 3 days.
I
Is
think
that
it-
enough? I guess it depends on the school.
And I think it's coded differently. If it's, for example, a
Is
field
it?
trip,
Okay.
a field trip to the Space and Rocket Center is considered a day of attendance.
And so that's
what I
another
didn't want
thing.
to do, is not ask our principal, if our principals are going to take a ding on this, do they need to have a voice in
So
whether or not
that's another
we're
thing. If
okay
it's
with this?
coded, if it's coded as like a school event, a school activity, what a parent might choose to do if like, nope, it's 3, we're only excusing 3 days. Well, then they take a parent note, and that would be counted against us, from my understanding, right?
Right, that's the way I
That would
understand,
affect
that's
it.
the way I understand how the attendance office
Gotcha.
work. But I think that the big issue here is that we want to make sure that this team gets, these teams get the opportunity to compete this year and lay the foundation for future competitions in whatever form that takes.
Cindy, can the board make the designation in the policy that the superintendent makes, they designate the superintendent to make that decision? So, okay.
So basically, you're just saying, it's a policy and just needs to be cleaning up on its wording.
Yeah,
Well,
It's not
So-
actually a,
well, it depends on how you choose to do it. The answer to Mr. Evans' question is yes, you can delegate that final decision to the superintendent if you choose.
We already adjusted the levels in which somebody can go to the competition. Was that we left it
Did
alone?
not. We left it alone. We didn't
It feels
touch it.
like we've done that every year.
Okay.
We didn't touch it last year.
We didn't- Okay.
but I do
I'm
want
sure
to.
we
We
talked
talked
about it.
about, we talked
I'm sure
about,
we
we
talked
talked, we
about it.
talked about it. We just, okay, got you.
I do want to confirm that in order to attend this many days, we do have parameters for academic performance. So a kid has to have a certain grade point average to go on these trips. So if a kid's failing that 3 out of 4 subjects, we have anything like that?
It would be on the local school, a coach would have to be the person that was kind of there. Now, I'm gonna say this too, I don't wanna get too involved into it, but cheer is not a sanctioned sport by the Alabama High School Athletic Association. Therefore, they're not held to the same academic standards that a football player, a basketball player, a softball player, a baseball player is. Now, are most of our cheerleaders outstanding students? Absolutely. But if they had a 68 average, they could technically still compete in cheer, whereas a football player with a 68 could not participate in football.
Yes.
So just FYI on that. And again, what I'd like to see here is the policy cleaned up. Right now, I'd like to just see that whole cheer section axed, just removed, and go to something that covers all of our athletics. I've got some wording. I'd love to run it by you. I've worked with Alex Hughes a little bit on, what would be accepted. But again, I'd like to reword it to where it covers not only cheer, but also all of our athletics. Because technically, right now, our current policy says no games will be permitted during the school day. Again, in all my time in athletics in Madison County Schools, that has never been followed. We got a lot of teams that go and play in national tournaments and things like that, and miss days of school. Again, I'd rather see it cleaned up and reflect more of what we actually plan to do and what we will do than just disregarding or, not following policy.
And you said this needs to be done before February,
Correct.
and we have two board
Two
meetings
board
between now and then, so.
And I can get the wording,
Theoretically,
written up and some,
you could address this cheer, you can amend the policy twice. You can address the cheerleading issue, amend that particular section, then when he gets all of it done, you can revoke the whole thing. Nothing that would prohibit you from doing two amendments.
That makes sense.
One to address the immediate problem and then one for the overhaul.
So it could be added to the next meeting agenda just for the cheerleading.
Yes, and then that takes off of Mr. Rogers being in all the minutes.
And
know you're not
the
gonna
loss-
believe this.
The loss of instructional time, the proposed that you're talking about here, my experiences were the games were never scheduled for instructional times. It was the transportation.
sometimes.
And the idea, in fact, I know schools that have set up their seventh block so that they can have a loss of study hall, for lack of a better word, so it's not inactive construction time. PE. And I have no problems with, I personally don't have a problem with transportation as long as it's limited to a reasonable period. When Buckhorn is playing Scottsboro, middle school's playing Scottsboro's middle school, that's what, an hour drive roughly speaking in a bus because of the governors and all. And game starts at 4, they gotta leave at 3.
Yeah, and we see fewer of those problems. I guess what I'm really getting to is situations where like Buckhorn, Hazel Green, and Spartan Baseball want to play in the perfect game tournament in Hoover. Okay, national tournament, schools coming from all over the country, Florida, Texas, California to play in this tournament. And they want to miss Friday to play in it because that tournament starts on a Friday. Well, under current board policy, they can't do it. And they have been and they are competing in those tournaments. But again, they shouldn't be, basically with policy, if that makes sense.
And doesn't this kind of contradict what, because we let cheerleading and they're not even sanctioned go for 4 days, and this says that
Again,
you
there's a
can't
lot of
do it
contradictions there, and I'd like to see it all kind of cleaned up.
just because it's not cheerleading,
Right.
because it is sanctioned by AHSAA.
Anything else on that? Like I said, we can get it cleaned up and cleared up, and I think we can come up with a policy that I think covers everything that we might run into. Now, for something fun, textbooks, okay? So this year, we've got textbook adoption. It's career technical education. Yet again, the subject areas are cosmetology, education and training, hospitality, and tourism. I've got the current list of textbook and supplemental materials there. I can send you that link if you'd like to see it. It's technically not the official list yet. The state board meeting was today, and they're supposed to put out the official list tonight or tomorrow, okay? So we'll have the actual list in place for tomorrow, okay? Our textbook committee has to be approved by you, by the Board of Education. I plan to have this in your hands by, is it January 11th? Our next board meeting, I plan to have this in your hands. I'm already giving you a preview of it. The textbook committee I've put together for career technical instructions, I've got Yolanda Washington at the Madison County Career Tech Center, Elizabeth Husband from Madison County High School, and April Schrader from Sparkman High School. My at-risk representative will be Leslie Cross. Jonas Wilson will be my parent representative. That's former deputy, now Sergeant Jonas Wilson. His daughter is actually in the cosmetology program next door. So he's going to be my parent representative. And then my board member, Mr. Nathan Curry. Okay. And again, just kind of a timeline on this. Again, I'll ask for this group to be approved at the next board meeting. Timeline, again, presenting you with the committee tonight, having it approved in early January. We'll have our committee meetings through January and February, cast a vote by the end of February for the adoption of this list or what materials we're going to use. And then I hope to have the list submitted to you all in March so that I can submit it to the state as our adoption at that time, okay? Again, this is career tech, which is a little bit different than with our core area subjects like math, science, English, social studies. We will probably not adopt a single material, if that makes sense. Whereas in math, every eighth grader in our district, we're using the same material for eighth grade math, okay? In this situation, we'll basically have three options. We would adopt the list as a whole, as the Alabama board has approved it. We'd adopt the list as a whole. Our teachers would then have access to any materials or texts that are on that list. We'd adopt a single item from that list. Again, I don't foresee that happening. Or we'd suggest our own materials. And if we do that, it'll be a whole nother process. We'll have to get state approval for the item that we choose. Again, I don't necessarily foresee that happening. But again, that's kind of the timeline and the plan for that. Any questions on that? Well, that's all I've got for you all.
We appreciate you, Mr. Rogers.
Yes, sir.
You ready? Administrative items?
I recommend approval for Mary Stump to negotiate and enter into a resolution session agreement, mediation agreement, or settlement agreement in any special education complaints from January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024 regarding special needs students. The board will be provided with a copy of each complaint and updated on the status of these matters as they proceed.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval of the October 2023 financial statements and payment of bills as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval of the bid renewal as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I recommend approval of the contracts for services as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I recommend approval of the classified employees suspension for 2 workdays without pay for the reasons stated in the notice letter as submitted.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I recommend approval of the personnel items as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I recommend approval of the supplemental contracts as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now we have, I need a motion for an executive session for a student matter.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We are,
Regular session's concluded.
okay, we're going to an executive session for a student matter. When we come back out of executive session, we'll just be voting on the student matter, so you're all free to stay outside, or there's no other business after that, though. But this meeting is adjourned.